We decided to spice things up on these founder meetups. Usually it's just me and VC talking about a lot of different things. But we were thinking, like, how could we basically give more exposures to startups from Croatia? So we decided to invite every single time a startup. We'll see, various stages, whatever it is. And this today we invited Ivan Andabak from Recommend, and he's really near and dear to my heart. So we're gonna hear his pitch for like 5 minutes. Again, I don't know if you guys have ever pitched in front of everybody, but even if you pitch in front of 5 people, it's extremely stressful, let alone like 50. So please, let's just give him a round of applause and just kind of, the stage is yours.
Yeah. To a pointer. Hello, everybody. First of all, I didn't know it was a pitch, so you sold it well. Thank you for that. Hi, everybody. My name is Ivan. I'll just move here. And today I'm going to present you a little bit of what we are doing. Recommend is an AI-powered e-commerce discovery platform. And basically, while I'm talking to you, this is what is happening in the world online. And as you can see, there is so many things happening. Consumers are engaging in different type of the content. So many type of the information is around, shaping how people are making decisions today. And this is basically a change that Recommend is trying to address, which is basically the way shoppers make purchase decisions has radically changed. Shoppers' journey and how they discover things and how they make a purchase decision is not linear anymore. So there is a lot of things that we are seeing, especially if we look back, how many things are shaping around these things. It's basically infecting and affecting how people are making decisions. So this is Meet Recommend. So it's me, Anna Maria, and Dennis. We decided to make our mission to help shoppers discover the inspiration and help them make purchase decision easier. And these changes that are happening are affecting purchase decisions. And I'm going to show you here on the short little bit of the overview how the e-commerce has been progressing. You can see at the beginning, it was this kind of buy a fashion, I need the lavish jeans, right? So this was the online retailer with a wide range of the products, which is like first generation of the platform. And these platforms, even the second phase, it's find fashion. I'm looking for the perfect pair of the jeans. Those big retailers have been optimized for the conversion itself. And what's been happening in the last couple of years is that shoppers are looking for the inspiration. They are looking for the experience. They want to discover fashion. And this is just one of the example in one vertical that is happening right now. And this is where we want to become and where we want to place ourselves is this discovery part. So Recommend is an AI e-commerce discovery platform at the intersection of the search, social, and commerce. And I'm going to show you a little bit more what does it mean. Okay, so how it works. So basically, Recommend is working in a way where we aggregate a bunch of the products from a lot of clients that we work with. And what we do, we have a lot of content that reflects in the videos, images, collection of the products that we feed to the consumer, straight to the consumer. Those consumers can discover, which is the first part. They can decide, so they can engage with those products. And lastly, they can do. So we offload those shoppers when they discover inspiration to the third-party advertisers. And why is this very important? This is important because through this journey and how the shoppers engage in this journey and what they do on our platform, which is searching, curating, collaborating, and clicking through the site, they provide these high valuable intent signals, which is very important for our clients because they want to, it's becoming very, very expensive for them to advertise to come in front of the shopper. This is basically attention game where we want to build inspirational layer that can drive attention. Once we have this attention and once we have this data, there is a big change that is also happening in advertising industry. And this change is reflected in cookies going away. So where Recommend sits is that we can drive this content association and product association, which again is very focused on the shoppers, helping currently more than 600 advertisers in 9 markets to know how to spend their money and what type of the products to place in front of the shopper when they are in this discovery part. Long story short, we are currently working with some of the biggest brands. I'm very happy to announce that we just closed the partnership with H&M on 3 markets, helping them to drive this discovery part and help them build better discovery that they haven't been thinking about until now. And that's it. Thank you, guys.
Nice presentation. I see Fabio is already excited.
Come here.
Yeah. So apparently they told me we've got a new setup, so just move the mic however you want.
Yeah, they told me that.
Matteo is going to be super pissed if we don't, so I'm just going to do it. Again, welcome everybody, and thanks again to Ivan for a really, really amazing pitch. You can also clearly see when somebody's a natural at it, because there's no, like, his voice was just like the same if I'm talking to him or he's talking in front of 50 people, which is always amazing. So for us, this is the first meetup of 2024. And again, I've said this, but I'll say it again. So there's like beers, Coke, Coca-Cola, not Coke, water, and a lot of different things that you can eat or drink. And later on, at about 7:30, I think there's going to be pizzas delivered in this room. So I know there's a lot of people, so please let's just try to kind of take a pizza, go somewhere else, and let's repeat in circles. But today, I have a very interesting conversation with Fabio from United Ventures, and we're essentially going to talk about the magic word, which is unicorn, and the magic $1 billion valuation, and basically what can you do as a company, as a startup, to maybe prepare yourself and put yourself on the right track and to get to that evaluation, even though I know both you and I have really strong feelings about that, but we'll sift through it. So some inside baseball, I met Fabio in 2021. It was Web Summit, right?
Yep.
He was one of the first VCs I've spoken to ever, and they were almost an investor in our first round. But all in all, I think one thing that I've always remembered is they were always helpful, even before we knew that they were going to invest or considering of investing. And we've talked about it a bit yesterday, Fabio, but extremely founder friendly. I think when you look at a VC, and you probably want somebody that's going to be on your side, and I think you guys do a very good job, you personally, and Massimiliano and Sara and the rest of the guys on your team. So without further ado, kind of the first question, if you can, always interesting to hear a bit more about yourself. More importantly, how did you end up in the VC game? And could you tell us a bit more about United Ventures? Like, what kind of fund size are we talking about? What are some of the maybe verticals you invest, or how does it work?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, Vedran, thank you very much for the invitation. I remember when we spoke the first time 3-4 years ago, and I'm here in Zagreb.
Thank you.
It's been amazing. I would say it's my first time in Zagreb, and I'm very excited to see you all here. Look, very quickly, a few words about United Ventures, about me. We are an independent venture capital fund operating in Milan, Italy. At the moment, we currently have roughly 500 million assets under management, over 4 funds, 2 strategies, only exclusively related to venture capital. I want to be a more early stage, where we mainly focus on late seed, the Series A rounds. And as well, we have a fund launched in 2021, slightly bigger, a bit more focused on late stage, early growth. We are a team of about 15 people operating in Milan, Italy, but we have roughly 70% of our portfolio companies today are Italian, of course, but we do have ventures as well in the UK, Switzerland, Spain, US, so quite, I would say, pan-European approach. What we do at United Ventures, we very much focus on 2 key elements in our investment strategy: people and technology. In particular, we like to support any entrepreneurs and partner up with them on the journey to build up great companies with the potential to disrupt the market they operate. So, of course, leveraging technology. This is very important, means, particularly at the early stage, any decision we make around an investment is strictly related to the founders. Particularly, we try to understand their vision. We see if his or her vision is aligned with our vision. We try to understand the background and, of course, assess execution capabilities to build up great companies on the journey ahead. Today we have, I would say, roughly still active. We invested in over 40 startups. We still 20 of them, they are still active. Good portion of our portfolio is mainly in B2B enterprise, of course, software related mainly, but we do have as well made an investment in hardware companies, or we're about to. So we're not afraid about any capex or anything that we strongly believe that could have a potential to disrupt the industry, could unlock long-standing value is something that we definitely care. About me, a few words about me. I'm currently a partner and I'm part of the investment team of United Ventures, joined in 2016. In my previous life, I used to do banking till I realized that life is much better when you don't do any more banking. And so in 2016, in the middle of Brexit, I used to live in London for many years. I quit, and then Brexit kicked in. It was almost impossible to find a job. No, I wanted to pursue my passions, which is just as still are technology and entrepreneurship. I realized I can't be a founder because I'm not that great, I'm not that resilient, I don't have such a great people management skills, but I can support them, I could be helpful to them. So I was trying to find a way to get a lot of exposure on many technology, many startups, and as well being helpful to founders. So ended up talking to a few funds. I met Massimiliano and Paolo, the two founding partners of United Ventures, moved back to Milan, and here started the journey in 2016. To say, it's probably been the best choice of my life. I've been doing this job for 8 years, and I'm looking forward to do that for the next 20, 30 years ahead, because very exciting. I always say, every time people ask me, what's great about your job? I always say, look, I ended up talking to smart, driven people that want to build up companies to change the society or the market that operates, and that's to me enough.
Who do you usually talk to in investment banking? Not smart, driven people?
No, it's very process-oriented. I would say the big change I experience from banking to the venture or the more entrepreneurial approach, it's, in venture process doesn't really work. And yet, at the end in banking, like in consulting and any other, you sit down at the table with all the stakeholders. There is a kind of alignment. I want to sell this company as fast as I can at the highest possible valuation in a shorter period of time. In venture, it's never like that. Okay. It's a long-term game. It's risky. And quite often you need to constantly move in a kind of conflict of interest around many stakeholders in order to build up value. You need to navigate the down moment and be ready to maximize the up moment. So
I know we've talked about it yesterday. I feel like people generally think that in a startup you just succeed within 2-3 years, and generally even you, like we talked about it, you mentioned it's like anything in 10 years is like extremely great success. Is that true?
It takes time. What we learn, and we are at the moment at year 10 of Fund 1, we still have a few active companies, very good one, that keep on growing. And honestly, they only in the last few years reached the point where if we could stay in that company for the next 20 years, we would stay there, we would. And the previous 8 years to get here, it was very complicated. And it was a journey mainly driven by the founders, of course, also with our support. So what I learned is that in order to unlock proper value and build up great company, it takes time. It takes time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now, you've mentioned a couple of investments amongst the ones that, of course, like you said, you made 40 we don't have to analyze all of them. I think everybody likes to see only the success stories, right?
Of course, I only talk about the good one. About the bad one, I
But
not allowed to.
fascinating for me, the two companies that I've kind of I've been familiar with was FACEIT, an esports platform that you recently sold for more than $1 billion and invested at a very, very early stage. And the second one is basically
Musixmatch.
Musixmatch, which is a lyrics platform. I didn't even know about that one, but essentially to my understanding, they have like a bunch of IP content for real lyrics and essentially use a lot of APIs, and hopefully you'll mention them. But essentially, which is turning out to be a very good investment as well. So could you tell us a bit more about FACEIT and the journey there, and how did you end up investing in them? And
No, the companies you mentioned are very good. First of all, an interesting example of why I do love my job. Let me spend a few words. FACEIT today is still probably the largest and global esports platform that allow people to play competitive esports and gaming. And of course, they curate all the tournaments and then as well monetize the content created out of them, as well set up events. The company, we got in very early. I would say on the back that the company was based in London, between London and LA, founded by an Italian founder, Nicolò Maisto, great guy. We made the first investment exclusively because we truly believe his vision, and we didn't know much about the gaming.
which year was that?
2014, I remember
Was
well.
esports even a thing then?
It was about to.
Okay.
It was about to become important. And then the company, raised more capital. Index came later on. And what happened in 2022, the company merged with AESL, which is another big esports platform. And then combined entity was acquired by, as you said, for $1.5 billion cash by Savi Games, which is owned by PIF, which is a sovereign fund of Saudi Arabia. That they have a plan to turn Riyadh into the capital of gaming industry. Super interesting element. While Musixmatch is another great story. On Musixmatch, every time, the best way to explain what they do, every time you listen to music and you open up Spotify or Instagram or Facebook and you see lyrics, well, you need to know that probably 90% or not even 100% of that lyrics are provided by a company based in Bologna, Italy. They were born as an applications allowed to give you lyrics whenever you will listen to music. Of course, lyrics are great content because they drive engagement. So that was at the very, very beginning. They shift from a consumer approach to more technology approach. And today, probably they are the world's leading music data company. In the end, they put together a community of 80 million users, active users. Those are people they sync, translate, play, delete, cancel, edit lyrics. Musixmatch has got a strong technology layer that is able to curate, manage, and of course monetize these lyrics. And a lot of this content, IP content, is then licensed out to the Spotify, Google, Apple, and just to mention a few. And as well, of course, it gives to artists a way to monetize,
of course,
their IP, which is very, very important. The company for us was a great investment. Again, this is an investment back in 2013, if I remember well.
So more than 10 years, right?
It took almost 8 years to then realize, again, back in 2022, TPG, a US private equity firm in technology, acquired a large stake in the company. And the good of both companies, they are still on a strong trajectory to growth. So they nice story, great story of growth and technology. I think, of course, they not ended with the transaction. They are just the beginning.
Interesting. When you think to those two examples, and even maybe broader, like it's always interesting to look in retrospect. You don't see a lot of things when you're just running ahead, so it's always easier to look back.
Yeah.
So looking back, is there a specific event or a specific trigger or a situation where, that basically moved the needle for them to go on the path of becoming $1 billion company? Was it something specific, or was it a very long, carefully orchestrated and well executed strategy?
I think both of them, like any other portfolio companies we have, it's never a linear upward growth trajectory, never.
Okay.
It was full of up and downs. They went through changing the business model. They went through fixing the business model. They went through, a lot of churn in terms of, customers and people. And then they found the right balance. I would say the key probably points I would highlight in both of them and characteristic, great founders.
Okay.
It's been an honor and pleasure for me, work with them, and I've learned so much because they are founders. They had a vision. They were really driven by a strong sense of dissatisfaction how the industry operates, and they wanted to create something new and disruptive, and they stick with that vision. And actually, they were themselves challenging that vision in order to keep on improve it. Second, both business models, I would say, unlock strategic value in the industry, but as well financial value.
Okay.
So I would say both companies, they run on, I would say, very strong financial position as well, based on growth, based on monetization of the traffic, of the users. And of course that helps because, what we learned on the last couple of years, sustainability of the business model is probably a very, very interesting part. Third, and this is something that we like as a thesis when we consider investments, both they create a very strong business model, able to monetize, create value, but as well very community driven. I mentioned before the 80 million users, active users of Musixmatch, probably now even more today. I don't know, I don't remember how many active players FACEIT still, at the time of the transaction. But again, we were talking about business model that were leveraging a lot.
Everything, yeah.
A community they built up.
Content, everything.
So I would say those are, to me, the key points of, what made both companies very successful.
So you think that if you want to become a $1 billion company, it starts with the founder, right? And the vision and the boldness of that vision, and
100%.
the bravery, any other characteristic that you're looking for in a founder or like to see when you guys invest?
Depends on stage, of course. I would say at the early stage, I fully agree with you. I mean, it's 100% about the people. It's all about people. Difference between, I would say, good venture and not so good venture quite often is back on the people's quality. The ability to, again, the reason why they are doing what they are doing. And again, these people are driven by a sense and necessity of change and disruption, not by, I just want to make some money or I just want to, cash out as soon as I can.
Make $1 billion company, yeah.
It's all about they want to stay with the company for, something I've learned. Whenever they pitch the company, they never talk about an exit. Okay. They always talk about, how do I go public? What this company will look like in 20 years from today.
When do these conversations start? I'm assuming not at seed and Series A stages, or is it already there? Like,
I would say it depends, really depends. But these people, they tend to have more a mission,
and
what they want to achieve with business. They rely on building up then a strong board that could support them in taking that decision. And I think if you, as a founder, put together a strong board that will support you in taking this kind of decision when the right time will come, that's what probably they worry about. But all in all, they very, very focus on, really change and disrupt the industry they operate. So people is super important. They are team leaders because they understand that without the team, without other co-founders or the proper C-level, they tend to struggle. And they very good in aligning something we discussed yesterday. As a CEO, as a founder, the hardest job is to align all the stakeholders you have in the company.
I agree. Sometimes it takes a lot of convincing
Oh,
and
yes.
repetition. But we've talked about founders. I think a lot of people know that, the I don't think, a lot of people who are really gonna found a startup, they really already know this. Hopefully not that easy, and they have a vision that I guess nobody else has. But what about the initial team of in the company? Let's say you raise a seed or Series A round. How important is the rest of the team? You've mentioned the board. I couldn't agree more. If you have a board that basically you're conflicted with, you have to convince, and everything isn't on your side, or you need a lot of interaction to get the ball moving, that's bad. But what about the early hires? Is it also important for them to be kind of involved in the company, and in order to build that business and everything else?
They critical. They're super important. I would say let's start. Maybe the basis of building up a great team starts from having a strong founding team. Too often, I see, companies that they start with a set of founders, and along the way that changes, or they come to us say, "Look, we are 4 founders, but only 2 of us are active. One would be willing to become a founder and active if we raise capital." That doesn't work. I mean, the foundation of a founding team is super important. So you must have...
Everybody has to be all in or nothing.
Absolutely. And have to share the same vision, and they must be complementary to each other. So this is another important thing. One man, one band, doesn't really work in ventures. I know you describe him like him, but it's complicated to me. And then this founding team could work together and is able to share the mission, the vision to the first key hirings. Particularly is super important. I saw that companies, they succeed quite often. They tend to have key position at C-level, from the very, very early days on.
Oh, really?
People. Then, of course, what might ended up as you scale, those people, they're not suited for the job anymore. You might change role. But again, the cultural element, the knowledge they get, is super important. So they become very critical, in particular, whenever you scale from 10 to 30 people, 30 to 100 people. You can do so if you have a strong layer of foundation.
Is it necessary that the early employees also have to have that $1 billion mindset as well? Or is it okay if they're like not as bold as maybe the founding team?
I think it's fine. I think it's like the goal doesn't have to be, I want to reach the evaluation.
Yeah.
Even more, maybe the founders could have that, think about that every night before he goes to sleep or she goes to sleep. But it's important that people understand what's the mission again. So they need to be more obsessed about product. And if the product doesn't work, how can I fix it? Whenever is valuation, it becomes a bit optics sometimes. And I don't think it's
I agree.
Because then, as I said, it's
good for PR, basically.
It's good for PR, and the reality is that there are a lot of up and downs.
Yeah.
And if people only focus about valuation as a last step, it would be difficult for them to navigate the downs. Very, very difficult. But if they focus on, again, what's the solution? To me, and again, venture capital could be defined as, again, investing in big solution to big problem of our society. If we do believe that technology has a positive impact on our society. And again, any people with that title, with that, of course, responsibility, should more focus on how can I unlock value rather than valuation or,
of course,
my stock option going to money. Of course, those are very important things. But again, it's the CEO and founder that needs to align all the people on that.
I agree. When we look at like the industry, like I feel like a lot of the times like people want these crazy evaluations and sometimes the crazy markets. Is it even possible to do that across any industry, or does it have to be, a certain amount of industries where the, market cap is basically unlimited? And for example, if you asked me 10 years ago about Musixmatch, I would probably never say, hey, there's a market that's going to be this big. Things change, obviously. What do you think about that? Are these unicorns tied to enterprise software or consumer, or is it possible to be, I don't know, in healthcare or edtech and still get a really big market cap and valuation?
Well, I don't want to say anything bad. That's why the definition of unicorn, as it currently stands, which is I reach a $1 billion valuation, quite often in capital increase, private capital increase. I'm not a big fan of it. The reason why, because it's mainly related to perceived value. Of course, there are early indicators why someone is willing to put money at such a high valuation. Indicators could be technology, could be a company scaling, revenue, and so on. But it's quite often linked as well to market momentum, to capital availability. And that's something we saw a lot in 2020, 19, 20, 21. And then if that perceived value is not strictly related to a value creation, that's what we saw in the last couple of years. Then, that many unicorns, or soon unicorn, they are not. They become very difficult organization that without capital or continued injection of capital, they're difficult to be managed. So to me, we will always have these up and downs, big hype, big momentum. That's what venture capital is about. Now everybody talks about AI, and we see crazy valuation in AI. I don't know where it will go in terms of valuation. Clearly, AI is here to stay.
Okay.
So definitely is a super important element. But it's more important on a venture capital side, in my opinion, to form your own thesis, how the market will shape. And in that direction, make an investment, and of course, finding the right team and betting on the right team. It's never like how the market is right now. Every time we made an investments considering in a big hype, it always ended up not with very great results. But the moment that we had a vision how the market will shape, I'll give you another example. We invested in a company called Mainstreaming back in 2016.
Okay.
Mainstreaming does an enterprise software on managing the traffic on real-time data, streaming data, in particular about broadcasting. So I don't know, in Italy we have DAZN to watch Serie A, and the problem that every Saturday night there was no working, there was a problem with traffic and traffic congestion. In 2016, there was still a very much pay TV based on satellites and so on.
Yeah.
And we thought the market will go on internet, will go streaming, will go in that direction. We found a great team with a great technology, and that's probably what happened 5 years later. And the company stayed in R&D mode till then. It was super difficult what they were doing. And again, that probably was the right thing, but as well, it's more important how we see, and the founders well see the market moving.
Okay.
And
so it's
restructure.
not important what happens now, but actually in 5-10 years when you do get to grow to the valuation, or something like that. Interesting. Okay, so I have a lot of thinking to do tonight, I guess. But yeah, you mentioned AI. Like we see crazy evaluations every single day. Your opinion is that AI is here to stay. I think it's also really interesting.
100%.
But what do you think drives these evaluations right now? Is it is it purely hype?
No, it's not purely hype. In AI in particular, look, I'm going to say something very, very direct, but so I can try to express our view. We have all the US Americans, they doing all in AI. That's the reality. They are building up highways with 6 lanes. It means if you see right now what's happening, Microsoft invested in Mistral, I think yesterday or today. They are really, really betting. There is a run to AI, towards AI, which is super, super important. That, of course, will create a hype. Our vision, for instance, is that, of course, AI is here to stay. Generative AI will have a massive impact. But before there will be an explosion in terms of usage, actual usage of AI applications or software AI-driven applications, probably we need to fix, and that's where probably the opportunity will stay, will be in the next couple of years, the infrastructural element. Because I'll give you an example. If we expect the whole world will use generative AI, how much computing power we will need in terms of data centers? And will be the data centers the only option? So for instance, we are very keen to edge computing in that sense. And the other element is everything around data governance, which is super, super important. Again, we talk to banks or other organizations. They do all have a budget for AI. They have difficulties to spend it because whenever they try to use a specific technology system, does not comply with the data element. So, for instance, we made an investment in a company called Aindo. We strongly believe that data governance will offer opportunities of innovation and venture capital investment. This company, what they do a digital twin on synthetic data of very critical industry. So they take the data set, they anonymize, build up a digital twin on data, and run algorithm on AI on it and train on them. And of course, that will give accessibility by specific industry in using AI, of course, being compliant. And again, so our view is that probably in 2-3 years' time, again, back on the question, how we see the market, the infrastructure layer, data governance layer would be very critical, and probably a startup will actually go there and find opportunity to fix those elements. Going forward, there likely would be a mass application on AI.
If you asked me 2.5 years ago, what do you think about governance as a word, I would probably fall asleep and tell you that this is the most boring thing in the world. But guess what? We have an API governance product. It's a huge deal. Every imaginable bank in the world loves it. And there's a bit of a hype there as well, I think. Like the amount of times we hear the word API governance in a meeting is probably tenfold than it was a year ago. So it's a good thing for us, but I generally think that, there should be governance in general, especially with AI, APIs, and a lot of the data that comes out of that.
We had a company that had good IRR, 3 to 5 million, mainly driven by public administration deals. 2 years ago was bad. When you will guys move to the enterprise, those are too big. Now the world changed, and the end, these are big deals. You get sure you get paid. Probably not in a sensible time frame, but of course, again, it's about the world changed a lot. So again, if we see venture capital or innovation like finding big solution to big problems, of course today problems are mainly related as well at the public administration layer.
Yeah. Looking back at the journey of some of these companies that have succeeded, and especially maybe FACEIT and some of these that have succeeded really big, would you say that was in stages? And which one was the most important one? Like, I'll give you an example. When we raised the seed round, everybody, I guess in the VC world, was like, oh, you have to get to Series A, otherwise you're dead. Now everybody's saying, oh, you have to get to the next round. So it's like always the next round, but also in terms of ARR, like I feel like going from 0 to 1 million is probably, I don't know, probably building this entire building would be easier. But generally then going from 1 to 10 million is relatively easier, not easy. And then going from 10 million to 100 million, again, almost as complicated as the first million. Have they gone through those phases, and which one do you think actually would be the most important one and critical one?
It depends on industries, it depends on stages. My view is that, first of all, you need to fix organization in order to scale. And that's the most complex part, as you mentioned. I fully agree with you. Going to 1 million IRR is so complicated. The moment you get to 10, it's funny enough, probably it's easier to get to 100 or 50 million. In general basis, I think you get a perception of value creation. Back to my previous point, the moment you reach the north of 10 million IRR, that's the critical part. Particularly if you operate in the enterprise, usually is a signal. Again, we are not very metrics focused, but that's what probably the general view of the market. The signal is that you are serving a good portion of your enterprise market. You know how to serve. Probably you have fixed the communication and go-to-market strategy, which seems to be the key challenges. So and that's what I learned, and that's what I believe quite often, particularly if you work in the enterprise sector, understanding your go-to-market strategy and fixing your go-to-market strategy, it's the most important part. So if you reach the threshold of 10 million RRR, you are in a completely different league, in a sense, not just valuation, back to your point, but even more important, you know how to serve your customers. And that is a matter of scale. It's a matter of, I need more.
Adding more people.
Exactly. Before that, it's
figuring out.
A tedious process of, try and learn.
Exactly. I think a lot of people, even I early on thought like, oh shit, we've missed, we made a mistake. Like it's not what we thought it would be. So like you said, it's a process of basically trying, failing, and then adjusting, tweaking, trying again, and just like doing the same thing until that's why I guess it takes 8 to 10 years to become $1 billion company.
Absolutely.
And it all depends on the amount of tries, or at least the velocity and the speed of trying, I assume.
Well, this is a very difficult question, because how many options I have, or you have as a founder, to try and learn. And that's a mix of the market you operate, the people, the capital you have available, because of course, startups have limited resources by nature or definition. And on top of that, you are disrupting or doing something completely new in the industry. So it's about resilience. It's about, really, really fixing by doing at the end. How long would it take? Really, I can't answer that. It's super difficult.
Yeah, it can take a long time.
For sure.
Now, we've learned, we've talked about many different things that can kind of impact the company and its, reaching the potential. Again, I'm not a fan of the $1 billion evaluation, but let's stick to it for the sake of the argument.
Fine.
So how important in this whole thing is the ecosystem? And I think that we've slightly talked about it yesterday, and I feel like sometimes it's almost impossible to become a really, let's call it a unicorn or a really big company in an ecosystem that isn't yet fully developed, because you're missing people that have specific knowledge, that have done this before, and that have scaled a company to basically, 10 million ARR, and that have done growth, that have done marketing. Is that even possible in such an ecosystem?
Well, I discussed with Vedran as well today. Ecosystem is super important. It's super important. It takes time to build up an ecosystem. And I give you my perspective, my view. An ecosystem is made by many factors, but 3 are key and central. It's about people, it's about culture, it's about capital. And you need to find the balance of these 3. And let's start from capital, because any big and large and well-capitalized ecosystem. And again, let's do a step back. Definition of ecosystem. Quite often we define the ecosystem for geography, but could be for area of expertise. But let's stay for geography for a while. Any large venture capital ecosystem in Europe or even in the US is always a mix of public and private money. At the very beginning, it's public money. We discussed yesterday about the man on the moon, the project itself, foster innovation on connectivity for 20 years in US, or the semiconductor industry.
Fairchild, Semiconductors, Intel, all of these guys were literally funded by the US Army.
Again, this was all back on money from American taxpayers. So I think any ecosystem, first and foremost, needs to see venture capital not as innovation, but as an important leg of innovation, and needs to put capital at work in a significant way, and needs to understand that this capital does not have a return tomorrow. Everybody wish, but it's a 10 years time frame at least. And maybe you don't get the money back, but is the effect you have on society, jobs, knowledge, and so on, know-how, and so on. And then you define a perimeter of opportunity, and then the private capital kicks in and makes the market flourish and become, of course, a proper asset class. So I'll give you an example of Italy, though, of course, it's an ecosystem I tend to understand and know pretty well. Third economy in Europe, and again, 61, 62 million people, and we still lagging behind compared to UK, France, or even Spain, which is a smaller country with a smaller economy. The reason why the capital was not there, but the effort of the government in the last 4 or 5 years, they put 2 billion in the system, and now you can see the effect. You can see
just for startups or
for startups and funds.
we should move to Italy then. That's
no. I mean, the effect was you got unicorns, but besides that, there was this idea that people belong to a community, that people could share story, people could share talent, could find talent, and that's important. And now we're seeing a lot of venture capital, new venture capital in Italy, and as well from abroad coming to Italy to invest in our portfolio companies, which is great. So this is part one. The second element is about people, and in particular is about again, I do have a banking background, so it's about tech people. It's about tech talent. And here it's very complex. Of course, we are going to discuss something I don't have competences to do, but it's a matter of education. It's a matter of university and so on. But it's important that any country invest in that area a lot. I think in our portfolio company, there is a constant struggle to find very smart engineers. It's always a shortage of that. And I think it's super important that the ecosystem could invest in that area. And again, it's a matter of capital. It's a matter of, put together a strong community around that. Close links to university. And third, it's about culture. And the moment you put these two things together, you got great founders. Our job is, and again, the try and learn mentality, that's part of what we can do. And if you got the right culture with the right set of capital, put a work with the right technical talent, that's how the venture capital ecosystem will work.
What do you think the culture should look like, just like broadly? I know it's like a very opaque and really complicated question, but what are some of the foundational elements of any good startup culture, or even let's take it broader, like ecosystem culture, if you want to foster like $1 billion company or grow as a startup?
First and foremost, these are long-term investments. So that's back on the theme. Think too much about valuation, think too much, I'm going to, provide results tomorrow to my stakeholders. We know that doesn't work like that. So the first cultural element is understand they would require time. Because the ambition is high, because disrupting the market is a very, very ambitious job, and it will require time. That's the first element. Second, again, stick to the mission. And the mission is, if I'm building up, particular technology, why I'm doing that? What's the purpose of what I'm doing? Those seems quite, obvious things, but they are not, particularly when you scale organization. And that's a cultural part we can support. And again, we probably because we have so much exposure in many companies. But to me, those are the two most important points.
I think the more that I observe what we do and what we do good and what we do wrong, it's sometimes like a bit of curiosity as well is I guess the fundamental. If you're building something new or disrupting something, I guess by nature you have to at least try a different way.
Yeah.
Because if you just do it the way that everybody did it, you're the same as everybody else. When it comes to the ecosystem, is it important that there's competition on a local level?
Oh yeah.
Within the ecosystem, for example, like we've got competitors across US and everybody, but maybe I think there's actually one that could be considered a competitor in Croatia to us. So do you think that's important to have that local drive and like feistiness about it?
Competition is good. Competition is good. And the ecosystem should foster competition. Again, we're talking as ecosystem geography, even at domestic level. What the ecosystem should be worried about if it's become an unfair competition. And that's why it's important at the, again, single nation or Europe level, we take care about this, because if your competitors based US has raised 10 times your capital,
It's not fair. Yeah,
it's
I
not
agree.
fair. But if you belong to an ecosystem that gives you the ability to accelerate and boost at the very beginning, probably at least you can play your cards. You can have a chance of that. Then, of course, it's not only a matter of capital, as I said, but competition, generally speaking, is always good. But an ecosystem should be worried about, get the company growing domestically in order to succeed abroad as well.
And we've talked about a lot of different factors that make a billion-dollar company, except one, and that is VCs. So how do you think generally investors can help, position, I guess I'm going to use that word, you for success in the long term? And do you think you guys play an important hand, especially if you sit on the board and kind of have direct impact on the decisions? Is that your job? And what's your take on that?
There is a lot of discussion. What's the value add of VC? And then you read a lot of horror stories of horrible board fights. Look, reality is that, again, we are very much founder-centric. So we strongly believe that our role should be support the founders. If we get into the company operations, strategy, of course we have a say, but probably there is something wrong. Something is doing fundamentally wrong. My opinion is that there are 2 points that I can be useful. First of all, I'm a guy who knows a guy. So
is that in Italy? Just in Italy?
That's just in Italy. It means what I can support is that I can open up my network for you. And as a founders, I strongly encourage them to keep asking me, how can I support that? And maybe if you have a strategy issue, a product issue, I'm not the guy. I can provide you with an answer, but maybe I know someone that would. And I can, at the right time, at the right situation, come with the right suggestion of people, as well as hiring and so on. So this is very important. Usually, a VC could provide that. Second, it's about best practice, I believe. And again, best practice, it doesn't mean that someone has to follow them words by words. But clearly, we have exposure to many companies. And so probably when is the right time to raise a new round or perform potentially an exit, or the struggling or the operative or board level or anything, at least we can provide a view. And our view is normalized by many experience and exposure we had in other companies. And again, doesn't mean that this has to be applied as a status quo on your company, but it will help. So this being a potential source of best practice is I think is important.
There's governance at the end of the day, right?
100%. And I think it's also important, and probably with these 2 factors, that is the fund, in an ideal world, is the founder that must choose which funds they're working with. Because, and again, it's the time frame we're going to work together at the board level, or even if it's not a board level, on discussion level, is 5 to 7 years, could be 10 years. And again, if we don't, trust, you don't believe I could provide value add in any discussion, or I'm not bringing the right people, not making the right introduction, it's pain.
How many boards do you sit in? A lot?
At the moment, too many. 4.
Nice. Is that too much for you generally? I don't know. Is that?
It's a funny part. Depends really on moments. There are, everything goes well. The funny part of our job, and this is something I've learned in the last 8 years, you spend 80% of your time on companies they struggle, and the company they do very well, 20% they don't even need you, sometimes. So depends on that a lot.
Okay, very interesting. Maybe the last question before we open up to questions is, you know, I've asked everybody this in the last 6 months that have been here, and generally, like you've mentioned bits and pieces of it, we've seen like a really nice period for startup where there was a lot of money, everybody was getting money, the valuations were really nice. Now we see different headlines like the valuations are no longer that nice, except I guess for Nvidia, Mistral, and OpenAI.
Of course.
But generally everything went down. My natural question: will it go up this year? What do you think? And what do you think generally the outlook for this year looks like for people who are maybe raising? Does that matter in seed and early stage investments, or, you know, should they wait? Should they go out and raise?
Well, 2024 is going to be better than 2023. This is because 2023 was quite tough as a year. No, look, what we are experiencing living right now is just harsh normalization, I believe, of a changing world and the hype we had in 2021. That's the reality. Because 2021, there was a mix of factors that it was crazy. We had a rate of our company's portfolio company raising that was unprecedented. And we knew that something was not really right. So there were change, energy crisis, war, and we can go on, change of cost of capital and so on. And now there is a normalization, and as well around expectation of technology. And that's why I believe it doesn't mean that everything is bad. It will be possible to raise. There is still a lot of capital out there, but probably it's the moment to think again, what's the purpose? What I'm doing as a company, is it a solution to one of the big problems society we have today? Because that capital and a lot of the abundance of capital out there is strictly related to this. So if you now have a cybersecurity company or AI company, the level of attention is super high, and even the level of capital is there. And about valuation, of course, it's a long-term game. So again, you might have nice valuation, but again, you're probably just the beginning of the disruption. So to me, it's probably a moment to assess this. If I'm working in the industry that is suffering, because they leave the hype of 2021, it's probably the moment where I need to be a bit more resilient and maximize the resources I have. So to me, it's important to understand the purpose of the company. For the companies in specific sector, it's going to be possible to raise, and I'm quite confident about that.
Let me try to demystify something. Everybody's slapping AI in front of whatever kind of mission statement, vision statement they had in an effort to basically be on the good side of capital. Does that work? Should I just like slap treble AI, API, whatever, and just continue a sentence? Or do you guys figure out at like the third meeting, hey, these guys actually don't do anything meaningful with AI?
No, I told you in particular for United Ventures, we very much focus now on data governance and infrastructure layer. So are we impressed if we see AI on a pitch deck? And even if you do, I don't know, consumer goods, probably not. Look, saying that if you embrace AI as one of the technology that will, accelerate your product, your service, I think it makes a lot of sense to do so. Is that the key pitching, winner pitching point? Probably not.
Yeah, so you're pitching against a pile of money that is right now big, but so is everybody else, I guess.
Look, but I'll give you an example. We have a company in cybersecurity, actually investment I made in September last year. They do on fraud management system. It's mainly machine learning, but only now they apply generative AI. But again, the element of relevance of that company in the anti-fraud for big banks is crazy, but in particular with the instant payments and so on. So I don't think it's the decisive factor if you put AI. It's more important, again, what kind of problem are you solving and why you are leveraging a great technology to do so.
I appreciate all the answers to my question. They were amazing. I'd like to see if anybody here wants to ask a question. I believe you'll be handed a mic. Why? Again, there's no speakers. We just want to have you recorded, so when you go on YouTube, people can hear you asking that question. So if there are any, I'd be more than happy to. Ivan here is gonna. There you go.
Hi, I'm Vatraslam from Taboo HR, and I'm basically a solo founder. So, yeah, one man, one band, and that's the question I wanted to ask you about. So, what's the main reason you said that doesn't work?
Because from our view, our experience, in order to scale a company, and again, think about on a VC mindset, we try to make an investment because we believe that this company could be valued $500 billion. So how could a person have all the skill set on the operational knowledge, marketing, financial, product? I think it's quite often is a matter of mix and people you put together. Again, I'm not saying it's that impossible. Of course, I'm not here to judge if possible or not, but I wonder what's the scalability of that. And even think about us as investors, what's the risk concentrated in one single person or one single knowledge center? So that's why I strongly believe it's, I have a fund portfolio company, I'm not going to mention the name, they keep telling me, the CEO keeps telling me, I will understand that I'm successful the moment I don't work anymore and all my team does everything. Of course, that's an extreme, but it's, it gives an opinion that, scalable organization, they tend to be made by people. And it's super important to have them. Again, my view, with all due respect.
Yeah, thank you.
If I may add, it also becomes it becomes really extremely tough. So you either have to have a very strong partner privately that can just like listen to you bitch and talk about every single problem, and there are so many problems every single day, every single hour, that it is incredible, or you get a co-founder that could potentially help, I guess.
So with all the complexity then, when you said co-founder, which is, again, something we consider as well as a fund, it's not hiring someone. A partner is a partner, is someone that has to share the vision.
Yeah.
If among founders there is friction, and it's something that we lived in a few portfolio companies, it's a very complicated thing to do.
Yeah, I know.
And you do not fix by I found a co-founder. It's quite often the bulk of the investment thesis around people. So it's very important, this element. Who I start my company with. Then things might change throughout the journey, of course. But again, the quality and how cohesive is the founding team is super important.
Cool. Anybody else? Can I get the guy's mic?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Patrick. Fabio, my question would be, I'm very interested in the really early stages when actually the founders are identifying a problem and then building the solution. For you, how much is important to the problem and not focus too much in the solution? Because I think there is a balance. Sometimes we have many ideas, and ideas is the solution, how we can tackle certain things, but we often then neglect the problem and fully understanding the problem. So I was wondering, in your perspective, while working with many startups, how much you dig into the problem and how that whole plays a role.
Very interesting point. And I give you an example that I saw a company in Ireland raising over 100 million. It was back 10 years ago, even 12 years ago. And then failing, they were building up a new completely secure network infrastructure. They were going to Cisco-like and say, you do have any problem, you're going to fail, my solution is going to win. And the Cisco guy say, yeah, but I'm sitting on 5 billion revenues on this product, you're going to fail. That's exactly what happened. That's an interesting point. And again, it's back how you see the market moving and moving along on that. Focusing too much on the solution, on the problem could be misleading in that sense. I think it's always a balance of that. Understand if, what's the, likely if what we saw in the last couple of years, some problems tend to become real. Whenever we talk, I'll give you an example, energy resources, energy, we know that this is something we cannot compromise anymore. We know we come from a week in Milan when the air quality was a disaster. Can we keep on that? Yeah, but at what cost? So a likely innovation will come. Will not be probably the definite solution, but we'll support on that and we'll work in that direction. So it's a very interesting point. I don't have an answer on that, but it's always a mix to find the right balance between the two. I absolutely agree on that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Go ahead. Hi, my name is Bruno. I wanted to ask actually something. Maybe it's a stupid question. Maybe it's already was asked by these two gentlemen. But I'm assuming when you are investing as a VC, you get swamped in pitch decks. So every day, every week. So in order to make a decision, you have to have some sort of investment thesis, right, that aligns with your investment strategy. And my question is essentially, what question do you ask yourself when you build up an investment thesis, right? You have to ask yourself a question. So what question is there?
It's a matter of what we learn. We need to have our view on the future. So there is pains in the market, and we tend to make our heads around how this market would move and change. And that could happen. Then we scout for startup, or at least out of our networks, that they are they are trying to resolve that issue, that market problems. So we do a bit of research and ask ourselves, the market, how it works today, it's not sustainable. So there must be someone trying to change the market, and then we kick off all the activity of scouting investment. On the other side, quite often we like to be driven by you as a founders on, look, I know the industry so much, and of course, founders know way more than us every time in the market. And from that, we start all the study and try to understand and to assess really the feasibility of the investment. So it's both sides. What kind of question? It's market size. It's quite important because, of course, and again, in building up $1 billion company, you need to operate in a large market. It is very obvious, but and again, it's not very obvious for many companies because sometimes we find great founders come to us, but then the addressable market is just too small for us to consider. So market size is super important. Who are the actors? What's the competition, level of competition? Usually when there is no competition, it's something.
What's the alternative?
Absolutely. What's the alternative? And usually when there is no alternative or no competition, I tend to be a bit skeptical.
Yeah. Is there a problem actually?
But again, that's me. Those are general questions we ask ourselves.
Okay.
And of course, then all the ability of the team, that's
can they build the product?
Product that he or she have track record. Is she or he a team leader in building up great companies? Of course, it is something that we ask ourselves.
Track record is interesting. Everybody mentions that. Like, how can I have a track record in Croatia? Like, there's no Harvard, Stanford. There's no like MIT here. So, do you guys consider that? If I tell you, hey, no. I finished like a high school in like a 10,000 people town where I'm from, and I was the top guy in that high school.
But it's not a record about, look, with background, it means you probably founded your own company. Probably was in, I don't know, brick and mortar or retail sector, but still, you know what it takes to build up a company. You know the value of time and resources to build up a company. That's to me track record. And that's why, and that's probably the most difficult, that's something we discussed yesterday. The most difficult part of our job is to unlock the bias that like any human being we have in taking a look at something and say, oh, this guy is, 20 years in the industry, blah, blah, blah. The reality is that you need to, as far as you can, keep out all the bias and judge the person for really his professional and as well personal career.
I agree. I really appreciate all the questions, primarily to Fabio. Just let him grab a slice and he'll be more than happy to talk to you, answer more questions, or sure. I guess hear pitches or whatever it is. He is here to learn about all of you, your companies, everything you do. So again, pizzas are here and enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.